Good afternoon, and thank you again for joining me on Broken to Beautiful. Today, we'll be talking about our frustration at our foolishness. Just a quick reminder that this is a month long series, and 5 days a week, we are here with you, bringing to you how do I go from my brokenness to my place of beauty and peace. We all at some point have felt broken, we have felt distraught, we have felt hurt, and we struggle with knowing how do we move beyond that. We can tell story after story after story. I remember when I was going through an incident with a friend where I really felt super betrayed. I It took me months and months and months, and I'm sure that a lot of you know what that is like, where you just sit down and you're questioning, what is it I did wrong? What signs did I miss? Was I stupid? How could I have been so stupid? We question ourselves when things go wrong and when we are hurt, and we become frustrated with ourselves because we feel like we should have known better and therefore act better on our behalf. And so it just drives us a little bit nuts when we are sitting there in the midst of our misery and we are unsure what is it with me that I keep making this mistake over and over? What it is about me that I can't seem to learn? And that's what we want to talk about today. When you get frustrated at your foolishness. So picture a scenario. Picture whether it was the last time something really hurt you, not just the little annoyances. Picture when you felt like really, really hurt and you're sobbing your heart out and you feel really broken. And what were some of the thoughts that were going through your head after the initial hurt? Was it that, did you start thinking, maybe, look, I know I should not have done this, or people have betrayed me before, why did I trust again? Maybe it was that you entered into a new relationship or went out on a date, or maybe it was that you took a chance to do an activity you really wanted to do, or you took a chance to do something on your job. Whatever it is, think back to that time when you took a chance to do something that you either really wanted to do or that got you all excited, and it did not work out how it is you wanted it to work out. And a few thoughts, a few possible emotions will follow. Disappointment, maybe, anger, embarrassment, maybe, depending on what it is. You may feel betrayed. There are various of emotions that go through us when something that we really were looking forward to or had invested our time in didn't work out the way that we wanted it to work out. And when those emotions come, then the questions start to flow in. And some of the frequent questions we ask ourselves, like I said, how could I have been so stupid? Why did I not see the signs? Why did I put up with all of this crap and only for it to turn out now? Why is this always happening to me? When will I learn? And how dumb can I be? I gave so much and now it's just for nothing. And these are some of the thoughts that start going through our minds whenever we are feeling hurt, and we start turning that towards ourselves. The thing is, a lot of the times at that particular point, there's so much going on inside of us, we are not really thinking clearly or logically. And when we are not blaming the other individual, we are so busy beating up on ourselves. The one thing that we need to remember is that when things do not turn out the way that we plan, no matter our level of responsibility, beating up on yourself is pouring hurt on top of hurt. Imagine being burnt, literally. Maybe hot boiling water fell on your hand. And on top of that, you're going to go and hold a flame to that burn on your hand. Nobody does that. Whenever you are hurt and you start beating up yourself, it's like taking a place where you was just scalded by hot water and then taking an open flame and putting it on top of that burn. You wouldn't do that to yourself. Then you need to ask yourself, why is it whenever something does not turn out the way that you want it to turn out, or you hoped that it would turn out, or your investment, whether of time, money, did not pan out the way that you want it to pan out? Why is it you're already feeling the pain of the burn? Why would you beat up even more on yourself and open up yourself to more hurt? It is hurt on hurt. And if you would not do that physically to yourself, if you have an open wound, you're not going to take a knife and dig into it. So why would you pour more hurt by starting to blame and take all the responsibility and beat yourself up when you are already hurting? We don't go trying to hurt ourselves twice, 3 times, and 4 times. So we get to the place where we're frustrated. We've done something that didn't work out and we are miserable. Why do we do this? How can we handle our frustration with our foolishness or our apparent foolishness? Well, here's what. After you have determined, look, I'm hurting already, it don't make sense to burn myself again by beating up on myself, you need to then determine if it was really foolishness or just a human mistake. Now, foolishness it gives you the impression that I have all this knowledge, but I am still purposefully going to go and act against the knowledge because I just want to, and maybe I just want to see or whatever. So foolishness, if you're being foolish, it says, I've got all the information. And I am aware that I have the information that could go good or bad, but I'm going to go the opposite to the information that could be good for me. Then that is foolishness. And a lot of the times when we enter into our relationships and they don't work out, or we try to do something that we really want to do and it doesn't work out, we have some information, or maybe persons present a certain image and we go with that from our perspective or with our hope. And we don't see everything. After all, we are not the all-seeing God. So a lot of the times we don't see everything. So what it becomes is an honest human mistake. So the first thing you need to do, stop beating up on yourself. Secondly, you need to determine, was I being foolish or was it an honest human mistake? We need to give ourselves space to be human. Doesn't mean we are intentionally going to go out there and just do all kind of things hilly-nilly and disturb ourselves and hurt ourselves. If we have all the signs and we have all the information and that this thing could be potentially dangerous and we decide, look, I'm still going to do it, then you may be able to bring in some foolishness, unless you have like a real legit reason that makes sense to you. But it brings in an angle of foolishness there. But in most instances, we make honest human mistakes. We overlook signs, maybe because no one ever trained us to see some of the signs. And sometimes people are really good at acting. So we've been betrayed. Maybe the person was really good at putting up a front. Is that on you? Why are you taking that onto yourself? So you got to determine, was I truly foolish, or did I make an honest mistake? Once you have stopped beating up on yourself and you determine whether or not it was foolishness or a mistake, even if you have made the mistake again, that's okay, because sometimes it takes us a while to get something. The one thing I want to caution us is when you've made a mistake, don't just chalk it up to, oh, I made a mistake and move along. We gotta stop sometimes. This is why sometimes we don't bounce from relationship to relationship, or if we set out on one endeavor, we don't just rush into trying it again. We gotta stop, step back, and when something doesn't work out, see what it is. When all the emotions have calmed down, when you've pulled yourself together, start thinking, what did I learn? That is how you learn to not make the same mistake. And you've got to remember it, or write it down. I tend to keep a little book of lessons I learned from experiences. See, I don't just write down about an experience just so I could remember it. That's pointless. You write it down and then you put your area for what lesson did I learn from this? So if you can't remember, you could every now and again go back and refresh the lessons that you learned. You don't want to relive the pain, you don't want to relive the hurt. You want to remember the lessons that you learned. And you take the information to help guide you in making future decisions. That is how we reduce our foolishness. So you want to learn to see what lessons you learn, and you want to move forward on the basis of those lessons that you've learned. We all make mistakes, and we are often harder on ourselves than we are on anybody else. When someone comes to us and they share with us something that they did, if we're honest, we'll tell them, look, yeah, it wasn't a wise thing, or maybe you overlooked this or you overlooked that. But you gotta forgive yourself, you gotta understand, you gotta learn from it and move on. These are the things we often tell others. But when it comes to ourselves, man, we pull out the swords and the machetes and we go whoop, 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 whoop. We slice ourselves left, right, and center. Like I said, when you're hurt, when someone has hurt you and you turn and hurt yourself even more by just tearing apart all the things you did wrong and did not know, that is a type of suicide. Basically, you're just killing yourself. It is done. And as humans, we need to remember that we're not going to get everything perfect. We are not going to know everything that we need to know going into a situation. We are going to make mistakes. We have flaws. We have shortcomings. And it is important that we remember that we've got all of this going on. And on top of that, what we've got a lot of the times, depending on the environment we are in, is people feeding us with more negatives. So our true sense of self do not have a chance to really know the good, the positive, the authentic things about ourselves. So we are just going on a ride and a wave that seems to be pushing us in a particular direction. This standing still isn't a physical standing still. Sometimes it is, but it is a mental and emotionally standing still. And we need to learn to do that and understand we will make mistakes. A lot of the times, because of my experiences, I always thought that I had to do things perfectly. I got to get it right the first time around. I had to learn that it was okay to make mistakes. As a matter of fact, I learned a lot from mistakes that I probably would not have learned if I go around pretending that I got it all together. Nobody has it all together. There isn't a single soul I know that every single area of their life is together how they envision it ought to be. We make mistakes, we have screw-ups, and we need to learn to accept that. And the sooner we accept it, the better it is for us. So what you need to do is accept that you made a mistake, you missed some signs, you overlooked some stuff. And then, and I'm not saying you just brush it aside. Like I said, you got to learn from your mistakes. You got to figure out what lessons could I possibly learn from this. In almost everything that I could think of, there's a lesson somewhere in that whole big package. And if you think you've known and it's a good thing, revisit it again and you could learn some more. So what I'm saying, you've got to identify, first and foremost, you got to not hurt yourself when you're already hurt. You do not, when you've been burned, put open flames to your burn. Or when you've got a wound, you don't take a knife to it and start twisting it into that wound. When you start tearing apart yourself for making a mistake, for being hurt by somebody else, sometimes we have our responsibilities in the whole scenario in some situations. And in some situations, we are taking on the responsibility of others. We cannot be held accountable for the actions of somebody else. You can only be held accountable for your actions. So give yourself a little break sometimes, some breathing room. And when the incidents have happened, you need to determine, was I foolish? Meaning, did I have all of the right information and I willingly chose to ignore it and so now I'm hurt? Or is it that I made an honest mistake, or I did not have all of the information I probably needed to and it did not turn out? Or did I miss something in the process that can be easily corrected? Sometimes things that seems like a disaster, sometimes it's one thing we need to change, and sometimes it may not be the best thing for us, so it is okay to let it go. It just comes with a painful lessons, and that with a painful lesson. And that brings me to the third thing. Know the lessons that you're going to learn from your experiences. They arm you for the future. Do not just experience an experience for the sake of experiencing it. And you want to make sure you do not take on the responsibility of others. Know what part you played. Accept that you're human. You've got flaws. You will screw up. Accept that. But you can also minimize some screw ups. But you cannot take responsibility for what somebody else will do to you. So you accept the responsibility that also that you cannot that's what you cannot control, what other people's gonna do, what the other people are going to do. You have no control over that. So those are some of the tips that I wanted to drop into you. When you start feeling frustrated and you start hating on yourself, you need to get to a place where you are like, look, this has happened and it is horrible. But do I need to really be beaten down on myself and hurting myself more with my own negativity and malicious thoughts and actions? Or do I need to just sit down and feel my hurt, get it out, and understand that I can move forward, because now you are armed with more information for whatever other battles lie ahead of you. When countries go to war, they're going to have some conflict. When that conflict is resolved, they have a session, an intense session after, where you got all the heads coming together and they are analyzing every aspect of the war that they have been through. They are looking at what they did, how the enemy responded, what the enemy did, how they responded, and they break it all down. We did this, but we missed this, or we did not consider this possibility, and they did this. So they become armed with more information. So it expands their range of knowing the possibility of how to react and how to counter-react in situations that may occur in the future. When you've been hurt, you're fighting your war. When that war is past, you need to strategize. You need to get yourself together, see what mistakes you made, see what the person did, and see what you learned from it. Many times what we think is us being foolish is that we are just being human. And you've got to give yourself space to be human. There is no sense destroying yourself when you have already been crushed by someone else. So are you going to pick up the pieces? And are you going to re-examine the value that's in you? Because even when we are crushed, we still got value. I know if you take gold and you just get it into little flexing pieces, it's still gold. So don't become frustrated and say, oh, I'm so foolish. You've been hurt. Sometimes you were taken advantage of. Sometimes you just did not see the big picture or have all the information. It's human to err. It's human to make a mistake. So you've got to get to a place, as I said, as I close now, you've got to first stop hurting yourself. You do not keep crushing you when someone has already crushed you. You've got to see value in you regardless. Gold in tiny flecks is still gold. Diamond covered in dirt is still diamond. If I took $1 million and I crushed it all up and run it through the mud and tossed it on the garbage heap, it will still be $1 million. No matter what you have been through, you need to remember that though broken, there is still beauty, there is still value. So you start with not hurting yourself anymore, because you are valuable and you will rise again. And then you will go and you will decide, was I just foolish, or really it was just human error, or I just got hurt at the hands of a selfish person, an uncaring person. I made a mistake. And then when you've determined your mistake, you've got to see what lessons you learned from that mistakes. We don't give ourselves time to learn from our mistakes. We rush from one thing to another. That's an injustice to you. And when you're done with all that, you sit down and you strategize. I have learned this information and I have learned this. And you take the positives and you arm yourselves for the next battle ahead. Because life do come in a series of battles. But in the midst of your battle, in the midst of your brokenness, you can find your areas to be victorious and still enjoy the life that you've got. So you can go from broken to beautiful, and you got to stop seeing yourself as foolish. Being frustrated with your foolishness gets you nowhere. And we are on our journey to our most awesome place. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Please feel free to make sure you leave your comments below. I want to remind you that the teachings are not comprehensive, because doing an entire teaching on how to go about actually forgiving yourself takes a whole lot more than 10-15 minutes on a Facebook Live. But I do have lessons if you're interested in learning a little bit more about forgiving yourself, getting past the frustration with the mistakes that you made. And if you're interested, you just need to send me a message, and in that message just say B2B, and we will discuss the specials that we've got for you that takes you from your brokenness to your beauty. Thank you so much for joining me. We are here Mondays to Fridays at 12 noon Eastern time. Have yourself an absolutely beautiful day.